Okay, so now you've created the settings for the form that you want to use, you've created the form itself, and you've given it to your students. So now you've got some responses. So you can still open up the collaborator view of the form like normal. Now, one other thing I want to mention is you can add collaborators by coming down here and clicking Add Collaborators. But note the difference between adding collaborators and sending. If you send it, you're giving it to the people who are going to fill out the form. They won't be able to edit it. When you add collaborators, that's like adding other teachers who can edit the form and can actually answer it as well, respond to it as well if they wanted to. There are a couple of other options here. Preferences takes you to the settings, I believe. Hang on a sec. Yeah, it gives you a couple of settings. And then, for instance, you can print this. You can get the link for it. When you click send, you can send it via email like this, and you can choose to include the form or not include the form, which doesn't really make a difference. If you send it, it sends a link. You can copy just the link, and I always do shorten URL, or you can embed the HTML. It says this one cannot be embedded because of file upload, but without file upload, it will give you the little script, the HTML script for embedding it. And those are the ways that you would send this to your students or to your clients or subjects or whatever. And again, from here you can add collaborators as well. When you open this up, you can type it in as, you know, whoever is in your organization that you may want to add things, that you may want to add as collaborators. So at any rate, we've created the form, we've set the settings, we've sent it to the students, they've given us a response. So let's look at responses. So when you look at the responses, you can see all of the responses. These charts and graphs are automatically filled out with the responses, and they'll show what responses are correct, what ones are incorrect. And this is when you look at summary. However, you can also look at individual question. So I can come down here to write paragraph, and then I'm able to actually see all of the different responses to that one question. I can go to, you know, any of these student number, and I can see what student numbers, who responded to it. And notice this shows one ungraded. What I find I use more often than anything is individual. And this allows me to choose, and now there's only myself, I'm the only person who's responded, but normally there's a list of students who have responded. So I can choose the student who I want to go to, and then I can come down and, okay, personal information is set, but I can double check, okay, they got this one correct. Here's one where they have to write a paragraph. So maybe I give them, and I could have given this a number value to begin with, but maybe I give them 30 points out of that. It says edits are pending, and once I click save, now it saves that score in there. Now, one thing I've noticed is when more than one person has the responses section open, if I make a change and then you make a change and you've made that change before I've saved it, it'll wipe it, so it gets a little bit awkward when more than one person are trying to view responses at one time. But that's just the way it is with this. You can also manually change scores. So for instance, the correct answer here was C, and it was worth 3 points. But if I looked at this after the fact and said, no, the correct answer really is B, I want to give that student some credit, I can change it that way and click save. However, the other thing I can do is I can come back here to questions, discard, I can come back here to questions, and I forget which one that one was, I think right here. And that's what I've got for the answer key. So if I change the answer key, and now I go back to responses and scroll down, you can see it's marked it as correct. It's given it checks. It hasn't changed the score, but it's given checks. So the scoring part, you'll want to pay attention to. The other thing to keep in mind is with short answer questions. So I don't think that we did any short answer questions that were not personal feedback, but when there are short answer questions, so let's add a question here and make it short answer. I don't know. So for the answer key, you can add the correct answer. However, only that specific answer will be accepted. So now if you have students who maybe are younger, where maybe you think they can spell it right, but capitalization or punctuation are issues, keep that in mind. Maybe you want this to also be correct. Maybe you want that to also be correct. If the answer is a contraction or more than one word, keep that in mind. So if the answer is do not run, you might want do not run, don't run, you might even, depending on the grade, want to say without the apostrophe, if that's an acceptable answer for you based on your circumstance and your students. So there are many variations for short answer questions that if the student doesn't get the specific answer or one of the specific answers completely correct, exactly correct, then it would be marked as incorrect. And there's a box here that says mark all other answers as incorrect. The thing is, if this box is not selected, it will score the student as nothing out of however many points it's worth. If this box is selected and the student doesn't answer specifically correctly, then it will, if the box is not selected, it will mark as nothing out of, in this case, 3 points. If that box is selected, it will mark it as incorrect and give them 0 out of 3 points. But at any rate, the important bit of this is that you should probably at least double check and manually check the scores until you're confident with how scoring works and until you're confident with how the scores are added up and how to use the particular types of questions that you're using. So that is how you would go about checking the answers. Now, for file uploads, which I didn't upload anything, but if I did, it would be shown right here, and it also, I believe, saves to Google Drive to a subfolder within the same folder where the form is saved, if I'm not mistaken. Now, the other really powerful bit of this is creating a spreadsheet. So once you've got your 60, 200, 700 people who have responded, if you want to cull through that data quickly and easily, you can click Create Spreadsheet. I would do create a new spreadsheet unless you know what you're doing. You may want to do select existing spreadsheet if you've got, say you've got a quiz every week and you want the results from each quiz to be on a new sheet in one single spreadsheet. You could do that, sure. But generally I would do create a new spreadsheet. So let's create that spreadsheet. It will open it up in a new tab. It names it the same thing as the form is named, but with responses. And then you can see how the responses are listed. So there's a timestamp, and then it just starts it gives the score, and then it gives the answers. So I got a 46 out of 30 because I gave myself 30 points for a paragraph that was originally ungraded. But then you can see the answers that are written right there. Now, what I normally do with this is I will get the spreadsheet after all the students have taken it. I'll select all of the data, and then I'll sort using for data, sort range, and I'll normally sort by class and then student number, but let's just say student number. Now there's only one here, so it's only going to sort by that one entry. But if there was another entry where the student number was 5, then it would have flipped. It would have switched those. And again, the way that I do it, the way that works for me and the teachers with me is we sort by class first and student number second, since you can select multiple ranges to sort by. Which I can show you that. So data, sort range, header row. You can do student number, and then you can do add another sort column, and maybe I want to sort by last name. So now it'll sort by student numbers and then also last names after that. It doesn't really make sense here because student numbers are unique identifiers, but when it's class, it does make sense. It puts all of the class, all of the students in classes first, and then within that class, it will sort in ascending or descending order, depending on which one of these you select, based on student number after the fact. And now I end up with a spreadsheet where I can see every student in the same order that they're in with all of my other grading information, all of my other grading documentation. And that's why that personal information section is really important and helpful, because when it comes to this chart right here, I can quickly and easily get down to just the info that I need. Now the other thing I'll oftentimes do is create a copy of this by duplicating it, so that I don't ever touch or change anything within the original form responses sheet, but I'll change it here so that if I mess something up, I can just delete this sheet and create a new duplicate of it. So anyways, that's basically all it is to dealing with the responses. And yeah, it gets much more complicated when you've got a few dozen or a few hundred students who have responded. But that's it. That's using Google Forms, and that's how we do quizzes today, remotely. So hopefully this helps somebody out. There's probably something that I missed, but I can't think of it. If I did, I would tell you. So, yeah, enjoy.